Hey y'all, welcome to the Moving with Millennials podcast with your favorite millennial realtors.
We are 4 top producing agents in the DFW area, and we are ready to share the good, bad, and the real life of real estate.
Whether you're thinking about getting into real estate, already an agent, or just curious about what your agent really does, join us.
Tune in every Wednesday to see what it's really like to be on this side of the transaction.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode. We are continuing on with our back to school kind of theme, and we are doing the 123's of buying a home.
Yeah, yes. So get your backpacks on.
Yeah.
Pencil behind your ear.
Yes. Be good students.
Yes.
We're gonna
stay in your seat.
Get your vanity glasses on.
Raise your hand if you need to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
The real teacher.
I love it. So we're gonna give you all the steps to our home buying process, and if you listen to our home selling process, we kind of even told you guys then, like, if you're an agent listening, then it's great for you to listen to this episode and know what exactly are those steps. Maybe there's a step you're not paying as much attention on that you need to be, or if you're looking to buy a house and you kind of want to prepare yourself for what the home buying process before you then meet with an agent and see what that looks like. So
for sure,
let's dive into step number 1,
which is choose a real estate agent, aka me.
Or me.
I was just going to say, pick me.
Yeah. But we'll go over all the paperwork. There's lots of addendums and paperwork that goes along with the home buying process, so we'll walk you through all of that. Representation, negotiations, and pricing. Well, before we submit an offer, we will go over the comps with you to see, how the house is priced and all of that.
Yeah, and so I think really when it comes to like choosing a real estate agent, I think most people, and nothing wrong with this, you may choose someone that that is a real estate agent and you've maybe followed along on their social or something like that, and that you guys would work well together. But if you decide you're wanting to maybe talk to 1 or 2 agents just to kind of see who's going to be a better fit for you, especially in when it's definitely a seller's market. I think we were talking about this when we got out of this crazy seller's market. We used to always have sellers interview us and multiple agents to see which was the best fit. But we now are getting a lot of buyers who are interviewing multiple agents to see who's the best fit for them. What kind of strategies are they using on the buying side to help them find their home? So it is important you ask questions and find out how exactly they're going to help you with that home buying process.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And as a buyer, you don't pay a realtor's commission, or typically typically the sellers. Both.
Yeah. So you pay nothing. So there's really no reason why you should not be using a real estate agent to help you with the home purchase. Was
that what you were gonna say, Brandie? I'm so sorry.
No,
it's like you have ESPN or something.
You have a sixth sense.
I love it.
Okay, step 2 is obtain a pre-approval. Getting pre-approved helps to determine your budget and move quickly and with greater confidence in a competitive market.
Yeah. So let's talk about how much you can afford. So there's 3 things, 3 factors that play into account on how much you can afford. It's not what you want to afford all the time, but it's your down payment, so how much you have in funds to put down on the purchase of the home, your ability to qualify for a mortgage, so do you have a credit score that works, what do your current debts look like, so it's not just about your credit, what a lender does, and I think do we have a lending episode that talks about like DTI and stuff like that? I don't
Not
think
currently.
so. We'll definitely get a lender on to talk more in detail, like qualifying for a loan, because there's a whole part that goes into qualifying you for a loan. And your debt to income is a huge part of that people don't realize. And then the third key factor to how much you can afford is closing costs. So how much the closing costs are, which we are going to have an episode that dives more into that. But it really does play a part of what you can afford.
Yes.
For sure.
I think it's also kind of important to note that what you can afford may not actually be your budget. So you may be able to afford something higher than what you're actually comfortable spending. And I think I kind of explain, like, really when buyers are looking at houses, they're not actually, you do look at sales price, but really what it comes down to is the monthly payment. You really shop by monthly payment. Because you can have 2 homes that actually are listed at the same price, but if they're in different areas, taxes could actually make the monthly payments quite a bit different. So it's important to know like what you really want to be spending monthly. That's kind of like one of the key factors that I try to explain to people.
And also you need to be able to afford groceries. And
you don't want to be
house poor. Like, do you want to be able to still travel quarterly, or do you want to?
Jake's like, I don't want to be poor, period.
Right.
But it's just something to consider. Sometimes they give you a budget, and that's if you're only paying for your house.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the questions you should be asking your lender when you talk to them, which first of all, we can recommend lenders to you. If you have someone you know, we can go on and on about not using maybe a big bank for your
Rocket mortgage.
Yeah, big bank, or some of the ones that you hear a lot of marketing, and they
Right.
spend a lot of dollars on marketing. So there's ones that we can kind of tell you, hey, I would maybe recommend talking to like a local lender. You don't have to use one of our recommended lenders, but we definitely always have lists ready to go to send to you, because these are people that we've already worked with in the past that has a good reputation of like helping clients, really well. Maybe we know that their fees aren't going to be, they're not charging like these weird random fees, making it look like you have a lower, rate than others, and we also know they're going to close on time, or if not, they're communicating well with us. So,
and we know the communication is there. They're
Right.
Huge.
We work well with them, and they work well with us. And also, like a local lender, they're going to be using local appraisers. So I think that's also something that's really important in any market, especially in the market that we're coming out of. But still, realistically, in any market,
Always
having
important.
a local appraiser is very important.
For sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those questions that you need to be asking.
Don't change. Oh, sorry. I thought we were going back to reminder. Some other questions are what type of loan. Like, ask your lender what types of loans you can qualify for, conventional, FHA, or VA. What's your estimated interest rate? Sometimes those loans will vary, and you'll get a lower rate on another type of loan. So that's definitely something to ask them.
Yeah.
A lot of documentation is needed for the lender for a loan. So ask them, what documents do you need from me up front, and then you need to get them to them as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Much everything with your lender is time critical.
Yeah,
I would say.
For sure.
And it's important that you get those documents ahead of time. I know we can kind of go into detail of like what pre-approved is and pre-qualified is. There's a difference between the two. So we actually try to get you all the way up to what's called pre-approved, or what we know as pre-approved, basically saying that they've already reviewed those documents, because you can fill out an application and say that you make $100,000 a year, but that's different than if you can prove that you make $100,000 a year by giving them the check stubs and showing them your tax statements, things like that they're going to ask for. So being able to do that and having the lender even push it through underwriting to make sure that they've already, verified that everything's accurate, you can strengthen your offer when the time comes to say, hey, we've actually gone through underwriting, they're ready to go, all they need is a house now to put to the file.
Right.
So that's a huge part of this. And I think the number one thing you really need to be talking to your lender about, and not all lenders do this, is getting an estimate on closing costs and monthly payment based on the amount that you're qualified for, or that, like Jake said, that you want to maybe spend, and even working it backwards with them. I have my lenders, I tell them all the time, can you work them numbers? They said they want to be here at this monthly payment. So work backwards on what does that look like? What price point should we actually be looking at?
Yep.
Or vice versa, should they maybe put a little bit more down in order to get to that payment? So working those different scenarios with you is what a lender should be doing.
And we can give you estimates, but I have a buyer right now, he keeps saying, I want to stay under this monthly. And I keep telling him, I can give you estimates, but you need to talk to a lender, because that's not our profession. Again, we can point you in the right direction, but the lenders who can give you those strong, firm numbers.
Right. Well, and I think we can give you estimates, and so can a lender, but a lender can't actually give you close, accurate numbers until they know your situation.
Right.
They need to know what your credit score is. They need to know how much you make. They need to know what your debts are. So it's not just, there's so many pieces to being pre-approved or pre-qualified that they need to know that before they can even give you estimates.
Right.
And then also, I always tell my clients, ask if there's any incentives going on. I know a lot do teacher incentives, or
Military.
first-time home buyer maybe incentives, military, So ask about those, or if there's any programs maybe you qualify for that you can take advantage of.
Right. Or down payment assistance. A lot of people think that's a first-time home buyer thing, but anyone can, or as long as you qualify for it, it's not just
the one thing I would say on down payment assistance programs, while yes, if you are in need of down payment assistance for them to give you money, know that you're most likely paying for it in the long run, and there's no such thing as free money, right? Or what is it? There's no such thing as a free lunch kind of thing. So you may end up with a higher interest rate if you do take advantage of something like a down payment assistance program. So just all the things to talk to and ask the lender about. So. Yeah.
All right. So also kind of 10 critical reminders. We're going to jump through a couple of these, or really to kind of talk about things you should not do during the mortgage and loan process, and know that we've had people that have done some of these.
I send now a critical reminders list of things not to do because it's definitely happened. The first
Number one, do not change jobs, become self-employed, or quit your job.
Or
no change to employment during the
when in
mortgage
doubt,
process.
ask your lender. Like, just don't switch even from a W-2 to a 1099. That'll kill a deal. It's happened. To one of my buyers.
Especially if you are thinking about making a job change, and let's say that you work for like a large company and they are going to maybe transition you to like more of a contract worker, and that's self-employed. So at that point, once you take that on, know that you can't qualify for a mortgage typically for 2 years. There are ways around it, but again, they're very expensive ways, and it's a much more difficult process, and it's not quick. So switching to some sort of like contract or self-employment really does make a huge difference on when you can purchase your home.
And this is even all the way up. I know some lenders, like they do like a check after closing. Like they'll check in to make sure you're still like a verification. Yeah, up to 1 month after you've closed. So you really don't even want to like the day of closing quit your job. They want to make sure that there's a future income and that income's consistent with what you've already told them. So that's the reasoning behind all that.
Yep.
So
do not buy a car, truck, or a van, even if you're going to live in it.
No, or you may be living in it.
No expensive purchases. I also tell people, and this may be like one of them, but even if you're planning on getting like all new furniture or big major new appliances, all of that has to wait. Do not pre-buy anything. That could change the amount of cash that you have in your bank account. It could change your debt-to-income ratio if you're putting any of it on credit. All of that is a no-no.
Yep. Don't spend any money that you have set aside. And you said, don't change that debt-to-income. So don't max out those credit cards.
The next one, number 3, is do not use charge cards excessively or let amounts fall behind.
Yeah. And then don't spend that money that you have set aside. Do not buy furniture is on here just because we don't want to make sure. I think a lot of people don't realize, like you go to Nebraska Furniture Mart or somewhere, you can open a credit card and put it all on there. They don't think about it, and I'm like, no, that's opening a new credit card.
That hits your credit.
Yep, and that changes everything. So also, this is also a big one. Don't make any large deposits into your bank account without talking to your loan officer. They just want to make sure any money that you have going into your account is clean money, and they need to be able to account from where it came from. So if you are getting like gifted funds from like family members, or someone wants to give you money for a down payment, totally fine. They just need to know that ahead of time, because once they see that on your bank statement, because they will ask for those, they're going to ask you, where did this money come from? Okay, well now we need a letter from that person stating that they're giving you these gifted funds. There's a whole process behind it, because they just want to make sure that they're accounting for any income coming in and out of your banks.
Yep.
So, and then don't change bank accounts. I think that's obviously why, because again, they have access to your bank accounts. At that point, you give authorization for them to at least get statements, so they can see where money's going and what you're spending. And then do not co-sign a loan for anyone. So that again would open up a new line of credit under your name. So all things to remember, because, and like we said, not even just up to closing. I tell my clients, wait maybe like 3 or 4 days before you decide to go max out your credit cards with new furniture, because we may not fund the same day as closing. So we need to make sure that we're doing our part, and you're getting the keys to your house first before you buy furniture.
All right, so step 3 is going to be, and this is really working with your agent. You're going to analyze your needs and start your search. So this is going to be, I always kind of do like needs versus wants with clients. So that way we have like a priority list, because if you tell me you want to go see a house, but I know it really doesn't match, 2 of your top 5 needs, then I'll have that discussion with you. It's like, have our needs changed, or are we really just kind of going to look at a house because we're excited to start the process? So I think it's really important to identify needs versus wants, and scout different neighborhoods.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think this is important to talk about. Like, we're going to advise you to scout the neighborhoods and things, like there's some factors that you can consider, like, if it's close to major highways, maybe it's close to a school, maybe it's close to railways. We as agents actually can't, they call it steering, so we can't steer you away or towards a neighborhood. So you have to kind of do that due diligence, and we can give you all the resources to find out some of that information, but we can't actually say that this neighborhood's not a good neighborhood, you shouldn't live here. We cannot say that as realtors.
Right.
I think too, right now in Texas, it's big to have the master plan communities, and so everyone always asks me like, well, which one's best? And everyone loves everything a little differently. So this is where it's important to scout. Drive through these master plan communities, walk through their amenities, and see which one you like best for your family.
Yeah, talk to people who live there.
Yeah. I also tell my clients, like, if you're kind of thinking about like a neighborhood specifically, kind of have that one narrowed down, or maybe you're looking at 2 or 3. If it's early enough on in the search process, I'll send you a list of open houses in that neighborhood. It's a really good chance for you to not only go to an open house in that area, but then also like drive to the grocery store for that open house and see how much or how far that drive is. Also go have lunch at like one of the, neighborhood areas and like one of the restaurants and see kind of, again, it gives you an idea of who you'll be around and whatnot. And so that gives you kind of an idea of what your day-to-day life is going to look like.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I tell clients, maybe drive through the neighborhood even at different times, like at night, or go to like the grocery store at night if this is like an area of concern or something like that. Because like I said, we can give you facts. We can give you school ratings, things like that.
We can point you to resources to find the information as well.
Yeah.
But
and
we
actually,
can't tell you. Oh, go ahead.
We can give you personal opinion on what we think. What's sketchy to us may not be sketchy to you. So it's definitely one of those things we can't even touch.
Right. And we're bound by ethics. So we literally can't even say like this area is safe or this area is unsafe. You also can't ask us like demographics about the neighborhood. Yeah. Like we really are not allowed to answer that kind of question. Yeah. So you just have to keep that in mind that, some of that is up to you to figure out and find out what you're comfortable with. But ultimately, it's not our job to tell you that kind of information.
I have a friend who always says, like, if you want to know demographics or how many kids or the age of kids in the neighborhood, the best thing to do is sit at the school bus stop when the school bus drops off or picks up the kids, and you can see like who is getting on the bus or off the bus, and do parents are parents active in the kids' life and walk your kids. And so I think that's a really good tip, is if you want to know, just show up when the school bus drops all the kids off, and you'll see. And
then there's actually two websites that I give to clients. So there's one, greatschools.org. So that's going to give you school ratings, and I believe it also even shows you demographics at the schools.
It does.
So if that's something you want to look into, that's great. And then the other website is neighborhoodscout.com. So that's going to be a good one to learn more about like crime statistics, things like that.
And also through our brokerage specifically, we also have an app that you're more than welcome to use, but it also gives age demographics, like average age in the neighborhood, and it also gives like I forget where it pulls this information. I think it's from social media. But it also tell you like if like in my neighborhood it was like a little bit older, so it, like the most common things that were posted about, or like some common things were nature preserve, because like we were close to one, and wine tastings and something else. So it'll tell you kind of like, it gives you an idea of like what's kind of popular in that neighborhood. Lifestyle, exactly. So it pulls all that information. So it's really cool.
Love that. Yeah. Sure. And then some other things when it comes to your home search, we get this question a lot, is yes, we can help you with new construction. So we work, all four of us work a lot with new construction and builders, both spec home builders and custom builders. So we can absolutely still help you with new construction.
I wouldn't even say can. We should.
Yeah,
you should still get an agent. Oh, okay. Because when you go into a builder's sales office, that salesperson, they get to know you, and it seems like you maybe become friends, but they really only represent the builder, and they only represent the builder's interest. Right. So you're working on pricing or negotiating or talking about charges and all those kinds of things, but you're working with someone like no one's representing you. Right. So it's only going to help you to actually have someone that is educated on the process and knows kind of, hey, like, well, the builder down the street is offering this, this, and this, so can you match that? Or, you know, all that kind of information is really important to have.
And the builder pays our commission as well. So not only the seller, but also builders. But then you also need someone, I mean, all of us for new builds, we are tracking the process. We're showing up on site. We're making sure cabinets are delivered and emailing if they're not on time. We can help keep that builder on track, especially when you are selling and buying, and keeping just the timeline secure.
As much as we can.
Yeah, full transparency on what Brandie just said with the commissions, because I think that's usually my number one. Like, I didn't want to use an agent because I thought we could save. You know, I'm like, no, the commission is not built into the price of a home with the builder. It's not built into that. It's actually built into a marketing expense or dollar account that they have set aside for agent commission. So you're not going to get a discount just because you don't use an agent, and you're certainly not going to be told what all incentives and ways that you can negotiate or any of that if you don't have an agent, or know to ask for some of those things, because there are things that are not included with new construction, like blinds and even garage openers.
Yes.
There's a whole laundry list of stuff that we can like go and tell you all about, but then you would need us. No, I'm just kidding. Exactly. No, but it's true. Like, we know what to ask and make sure that you're getting everything included and not just charged for sometimes. Like sometimes you can get those for free, and people don't know that. So
and with a new build, yes, it is a new build, but we will also recommend that you get an inspection before you move in or even close, which a builder's never going to recommend that.
Right.
There's been multiple times where we've done the inspection and there's been things that
the
are
builder
not
doesn't
done
even
correctly.
talk about.
Or and it's like that needs to be fixed. You're buying a brand new home. You need to move into a perfect brand new home.
Yes, for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Definitely. And we can also help with for sale by owner. So if you see an online listing and it's not on your portal, just reach out and we can reach out to the homeowner and get more information for you.
Yep. So if you see a sign, just let us know.
Yep.
Okay, step number 4. This one is making an offer. So there are so many pieces when it comes to making an offer. Again, if you listen to the sellers episode, it's not just about price all the time. I know us as agents, the very first thing we do when you tell us you want to make an offer is we call the listing agent. We ask them a series of questions to make sure that we're not just presenting the best offer to the seller, because obviously we are representing you, so we're not trying to give them everything, but we want to make sure that we're giving an offer that makes sense. Do they need a lease back? Because if they absolutely need a lease back, it has to work for you, the buyer, as well.
Right.
So we're asking all these questions to make sure that when we present an offer, it's something that they would hopefully accept.
I think that's important to say too, Mariana, because a lot of agents don't call before submitting an offer. Where
Oh
all
my
of us do
goodness.
that. I always build rapport with the agent before we submit an offer, because I want the agent to know that not only am I easy to communicate with, but I'm gonna work with you.
Right.
I want to have your seller's best interest, and I want to have my buyer's best interest, because then I know that we're gonna work well together and make it an easy transaction.
For sure.
And just setting that precedence up front. I feel like it's so important. A lot of people don't do that.
And I've gotten so many offers accepted when we were not the best offer, but it was just based on building the rapport with the
communication. Like they knew you were going to help try to get it close, because like I said before, it's all about a win-win.
Yeah.
Like you want to make sure that the other agent, because other agents sometimes, like I feel like they come at you because they feel like they have to be, defending their client versus negotiating for their client. And it's like, I tell client or other agents all the time, I'm like, look, we're working this transaction together. Like you and I are both trying to get to the closing table, not obviously for different reasons, but making sure that both parties, that it's a win-win for both parties.
Yes, everyone has the same goal. The seller wants out of the house, the buyer wants in it. So for that to happen, the transaction has to close.
Exactly.
So everyone has the same goal.
Yep. Absolutely.
So on the offer, you'll have the sales price, closing costs, move-in date, additional property, and then your option and earnest. So we can break those down a little bit.
Yeah, there's lots of other terms, but those are just the main ones.
Yeah, those are the ones typically I put in my spreadsheet and whatnot. Those are the definitely the highlights that people look at kind of initially. And again, like you mentioned, like additional property. So that's like refrigerator, washer, dryer. If there's any furniture, you don't even necessarily have to put that in the offer. You can kind of negotiate those things after. Because again, if you're trying to get it in quickly, or you know that the buyer, if you know that you want those things but you don't have to have them, that is something that can be negotiated after as well.
And same with closing costs, like you can negotiate that during your option period as well.
Yeah. And just know, once you present an offer, there's 3 things that can happen. Either the sellers can accept the offer, they can fully reject the offer, they don't have to say anything, they can just reject it, or they can counter the offer. And offering maybe that they're maybe they're countering the price and they want a higher price, or maybe they want to counter some sort of moving date and terms. They can change whatever they want and send that back to us.
And we always try to have an answer for you within 24 hours. I think all of us, right now we're seeing a deadline, right? So we see the deadline of when the offers need to be submitted, and we're working in communication with the other agent to make sure that as soon as a decision's been made.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. And then when it also comes to making an offer, so your agent should always, always, always run a CMA, so a comparative market analysis, basically just showing you what the comparables look like before you make an offer. That way you know how much you're overpaying. No, just kidding.
Oh my gosh, no, not
no,
anymore.
No, just
Even
kidding.
when it was
Gosh.
crazy, like I would pull the CMAs just so we would have an idea of what it was going to.
But you want to get an idea of kind of
like,
where the price sits currently,
for sure.
and what could be a good offer price.
Definitely.
But and then preparing to make an offer. So the steps to doing that is making sure we've already talked about talking to a lender. So hopefully you already have the pre-approval, or you should have the pre-approval letter or proof of funds already in hand. So that way the agent can use that or send that with the offer.
Yep.
You've already, hopefully at this point, researched the neighborhoods and the schools before you make that offer. Because, I mean, although you can do that during the option period, which we'll talk about here in a minute, it's best that you go ahead and do that so you aren't losing some of the money that you have to put down once you go under contract.
For sure.
The next one is discussing negotiable contract terms with your realtor. So hopefully you've already done that. What else?
Keeping your offer clean and simple. You need to review the seller's disclosure. And then have your earnest and option money check ready to go. You can also wire this to the title company, or most of them will provide an overnight label where you can overnight it via FedEx.
I think it's important to know that your earnest and option is held by a neutral party. Yes, you are giving it to the seller, but you're not they're not going to get the check that day. It's going to be held in title.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to say is it's really important as you are maybe talking to agents or interviewing agents, also ask them about their process for submitting offers, kind of like what they do. Because like we said, we all call to talk to the agent. Not every agent does that. I think also all four of us, when we send an offer, we've already then talked to the agent on the phone. We're attaching every single document that could possibly be needed. But then we also, all of us, provide kind of like a short bullet point summary because I want to make sure that agent doesn't miss anything, especially if they're looking at 42 offers, that they may miss something term-wise. I make sure that I have like all the important terms bullet pointed for them. And that also has helped because agents are like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sending that. You know, that it really does kind of make a difference. So ask your agent what their process is for submitting offers.
Yeah, I definitely do that, and then even include and highlight sometimes.
Yeah,
I'm
too.
not contingent on some of the help.
Bold and
I just did that.
Make sure you know.
And also at the bottom I say please confirm receipt, and then I'll also call and text them I've sent over this offer. If I don't hear an answer, I'm gonna call them. I've just become Maggie, I've taken after you.
You want to make sure that they've gotten the offer.
Oh
I just pick on them. I'm like, come on, let's go, come on.
I know. I called an agent today 3 times.
Oh, you're that agent.
Yes, I needed an answer. He told me they were reviewing first thing in the morning. And
well, if you're not hearing back, Maggie,
well, no, he said ours was last night. He was like, if you come in at this, we'll.
Yeah, no, it's not bad.
But he said at a work event, so I'm hoping that's why.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
We'll see.
All right, step 5 is inspections and option period.
Yes.
If you are purchasing a resale property, we highly recommend that you have a professional home inspector conduct a thorough inspection and that you attend the last 30 minutes to review any findings.
I think it's really important to note this is going to be a general inspection, so they do not specialize in anything, and so they're looking at all the major things: appliances, plumbing, AC and heating, electrical, ventilation, roof and attic, foundation, general structure. They also are not looking behind walls. They're not doing anything. They only are looking at what is visible with their eyes, basically.
They can't move big furniture,
correct,
with the fridge, things
so
like
if there's a car parked in the garage and they can't get in the attic, then that means they can't inspect that portion of the home. So, it's really important that you know that they really don't specialize in anything specifically, and they're bound just like we are by TREC rules, Texas Real Estate Commission. So there are certain things that they have to do and have to look for. And again, if there's something like pool or septic, you do need to get a specialized inspector out there to look at those things, because that's different.
Yeah, and what's good about the general inspector is he's gonna say hey, I recommend that this needs further evaluation. So then that's when you can pay, because you're gonna pay for the home inspector, but things like the roofer may come out for free, but someone like a pool company or something like that is gonna charge usually some sort of fee to come out and do their own inspection.
If you have any concerns about foundation, hiring a structural engineer, that's someone to come up to the house.
Not a foundation company.
There's just a ton of different things, but again, that inspector will tell you, hey, I am kind of concerned. Let's have someone else come look at it.
Absolutely. Need to look into it further. Also, I think it's important to note that a home cannot, I get this all the time, a home cannot pass or fail an inspection. I always hear that term, oh, that's not going to pass the inspection. I'm well, there's really no pass or fail. What I think people are trying to get at is, an inspector is probably going to point that out as a default or a deficiency in the inspection, because things may be out of code, or maybe there's a defect in the in something, like the electrical could be as small as maybe one of the light switch covers has a crack in it or it's missing, and we know that that's a 10-cent fix, but that makes it defective. So, but it's not a pass or fail kind of situation. It's more of a, here's how the house is today. This is what's, this is wrong or this is out of code. It's up to you to decide what is important and not necessarily failing.
I think the only caveat to that is if you do have an FHA loan, there are certain things that if there is wrong, it's not necessarily that it fails the inspection, but they will require that certain things do get fixed.
That the condition meets their standards. And that's kind of like the big thing.
So it's like roof or foundation, I think are like, the most common too. Or something silly, like that.
And usually the appraiser, when he goes out to do the look at the property, he's going to look for things that they can consider pass or fail for them to give approval for the home for the loan. So
for sure. And keep in mind, the inspector is inspecting the house as if it were built today, and if it's a 1960s home, there's been tons of code changes, so it's an item might be marked deficient, but just know that it's likely a code change.
Right, absolutely,
which is fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
As long as it's not like a safety. Over. It doesn't mean we have to burn the house down. It just means that the codes have changed and standards are different.
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes have new construction. Like I've had an inspection done, and the code changed like within those 6 months. So like, and it was something small. Like there wasn't a GFCI outlet in like the utility room, and I guess that changed while they were under code. But by the time that they pulled electrical permits, it wasn't a code. So it was something so new. So the builder's like, we're not going to do anything about it because it was in code when we pulled permits. So.
Step 6 is the financing period. So your lender will be in touch throughout the process, gathering more documents until you get final approval. And then if you're using obviously if you're using financing, you need an appraisal. So the lender will order an appraisal to make sure the home meets value, because they'll only finance what the appraised value
So really
is.
And then the goal of that appraisal is really just to verify that the value of the property for the lender and protect you from overpaying. So really it's just a kind of an extra level of security when it comes to that sales price.
Definitely.
And then, next is home insurance. So whether you have financing or not, you do want to get home insurance. But if you do have financing, you absolutely have to get homeowners insurance. So you will want to shop around and make sure you're finding coverage that's good fit for you.
2 things. 1, home insurance is different than title insurance. If you've listened to our title policy episode a while back, you know that we did explain the difference, but title policy is something totally different. It's what protects and says that you are the sole and only owners of the property, and they go back and make sure all the way back to the Louisiana Purchase that you have clear ownership rights. Home insurance obviously is what protects the actual home itself and your belongings in case of flood, fire, and any natural disaster kind of things like that. So they're different things, and you do need both.
Yeah, there's so many parts of insurance, because you made me think like there's also mortgage insurance. Yeah. There's lender's insurance, which is kind of like title's insurance, but lender's insurance to insure. So they're insured. It's just there's so much insurance just in case something goes wrong. We have E&O insurance, like error and omission insurance. So many things in case it goes wrong, we have to pay for that. So then the last part of the financing period is the loan approval. So this is really when everything's being submitted to the underwriters, and they're going to just make sure, like I've said before, that all the things that you submitted are accurate, and then we're going to get what's called the clear to close. So this is saying that, okay, the underwriters have looked at everything. We have final approval to issue the loan. So usually you want to get that 3 days before closing, or you should be getting it 3 days before closing, to make sure that we're good to go and can actually get the funds for closing.
Absolutely. So step 7, as we're preparing to close, that is when the title search is being done. So again, they make sure that you are the only people that have the right to own that property. Then they'll also give title insurance. They'll do the tax check to make sure that the taxes are being prorated correctly. And if you are in any neighborhood that is one of those maybe master plan communities or even older neighborhoods that, if it has an HOA, then they will also be pulling the HOA documents and resale certificate.
Yep.
And then surveys are important. It's just a sketch showing a map of the property lines, boundaries, and whether there are any encroachments on the property. If the seller doesn't have one that's acceptable, a new survey must be ordered. And this is in the contract decided if the buyer or the seller has to pay for that.
It's negotiation. Yep. So I think it's important here, if you are someone that's thinking about putting in a pool, or it's a property that's maybe a little bit larger and you're planning on adding like a shed or a second building of any sort, getting the survey is really important, and you do have time to review the survey and make sure that it's going to fit your needs. And there's also a portion of the contract where you can write, if there's something that you're planning on doing to the home that it's kind of contingent on being able to do that. So the survey sometimes can be very important if you're planning on changing or doing anything else on the property.
Yeah. The next part of this with preparing to close is a home warranty. So I know I always recommend that they purchase a home warranty at least for like the first year. Just seems to be that if anything's going to break, it always happens in that first year. So while you have homeowner
first week, I feel like so much strong. As soon as you move in, you're like, and they always call me like, "Welcome to homeownership."
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, everything is breaking.
There's always something.
You have arrived.
Yeah. So while you have homeowners insurance, and like Jake said, that's going to cover like your like if there's like a rainstorm or hail, like that covers the roof or flooding or major catastrophe type situations. A home warranty is what's going to cover like those systems and maintenance type items inside of the house. So if the water heater breaks or if the dishwasher breaks, things like that, there's a clog in the plumbing, that's what your home warranty company will cover and remedy.
For sure. And this also covers appliances. So anything that you bring in, washer, dryer, fridge, you can also register those to be covered under home warranty.
Yeah.
I always explain home warranty. So our house flooded when we lived in Carrollton. The water heater broke and just like filled our house the entire day while we were gone. We literally got back and Bella's crate was in the kitchen with like water around it. And she just was like just sitting there.
Like the Titanic?
Yes. I was like, we'll never let go.
That so bad. It could have been.
So, I mean, we did tens of thousands of dollars. Our entire kitchen had to be gutted. So home insurance covered all the water damage, but did not pay to replace the water heater, but our home warranty did.
Right.
So we had to claim with both. So because home warranty is, like you said, the systems, appliances, things like that, whereas insurance is the actual like structure and property.
Yeah, that's a great point, or a great like analogy to like show how that.
Bella's still scared of water, actually.
Yeah, what happened to Bella?
She's still just, she hates water.
PTSD forever.
I know, I would too.
Yes.
All right, and then utility. So we all kind of, I think all four of us do recommend a utility concierge to kind of make your life easier, so that they're gonna price out different options for you and kind of help organize. This is what you need to do to have everything turned on at the correct time, and it makes your life much easier.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, step 8.
Step 8 is the last day.
Closing day.
The best day.
Yes.
But before we get to closing day, either the day before or the day of, we'll do what's called a final walkthrough. So this is really your last opportunity to walk through the house, make sure that everything from the day that we signed on the home at that time is in the same condition.
Make sure no one has fallen through a ceiling.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh, yes. Or that, oh my gosh, nothing's falling through a ceiling. There's no big holes in the ceiling or roof. Make sure that seller hasn't pulled all the appliances. Yep, because I've heard horror stories of things like that happening. So this is really just to do that final check off of saying, okay, we've walked through the home one last time before we sign those documents. So I know, surprisingly, I don't think every agent does a final walkthrough. Like, I feel like they make it negotiable.
I do them even with lease backs in place.
Yeah. So I've had clients that haven't wanted to do one, and I'm like, we should. If it's a lease back, if it's a long lease back, I won't do one before closing, but I'll do one before the end of the lease back.
So
I do both.
So here, I would say, I would do both, and here's why. So I actually, if it's going to be a long lease back, I actually recommend that my buyers take a video through the whole house, because what ends up happening is after closing, even though we negotiated that the curtains will stay or the rods will stay, after that 2-month lease back, things get forgotten about, and all of a sudden those things are missing. So I tell them to go ahead and do a video, because they're now the tenant, to the home, and so in case there's new damage or anything like that, they have a video of what it looked like the day we did the final walkthrough. So I do still do it, and then if it's like a 2-month lease back, then right before, I don't normally go at this point to do it, but I do put them into communication and have them maybe either walk through with the seller or definitely walk through it, on their own before they return like the deposit or something like that. So. But so closing day, and then once you're at closing day, some of the things that you should be bringing are, you need to be bringing either a certified check for closing costs, or sometimes, like Maggie said, you can also do a wire to the title company so we can get you those wiring funds. You want to bring a valid government issued photo ID, just proving who you are before you sign.
Valid includes that it hasn't expired.
Right.
Yes. So no expired. Yes, absolutely. Because that literally has happened to me, where it like expired the day after closing or something. And we were like, oh no, you need to go get a new one. And even if it's a paper one at that point, that's still a valid technical photo ID. Social security number. So you do need to know your social, because they'll ask some questions about that. And then the address for the past 10 years. I know I have this on here. I don't think lenders have been asking this lately. I used to get this all the time. They used to ask for the last 10 years of your residency.
I think lenders do it, and sometimes I've seen it sometimes even on the buyer questionnaire that title will ask for. Sometimes they'll do it too.
Ask it up front. Yeah. So that's what you need to bring. And then like we said in the last episode, that we're actually not closed and you're not able to take possession once you sign the documents. It's not until everything is funded. So once the lender takes the funds and gives it to title, and then title is able to make the disbursements and transfer it over to the sellers, at that point we are what is called closed and funded. So you have to be closed and funded before we can actually give you the keys and for you to take possession, unless you have like a lease back or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's when you become the new homeowner. I know we always do, like I've got like my pivotal like text messages that I sent along the way too.
Right.
So like my last one that I always give about closing and funding, I've even got like a cute little photo I give them, and it's always my favorite to like hand out, where I'm like, we're closed and funding, congratulations, you are a homeowner, and they're so excited.
So fun.
Do the little gifts and stuff.
Yeah,
It's just such an exciting day. I think purchasing a home is one of the biggest financial moves anyone will ever make, and so it's just, it should be celebrated. It should not be taken lightly, so it's just a big deal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, very good, students. Thank you so much for listening to Back to School.
And if you have questions or comments, make sure you post it on our Instagram. Comment in the post.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.